Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge and Company. It's been a long time since I last talked politics and public policy with Alyssa Katz. Then she was the editor of a magazine called City Limits. Now she's a member of the New York Daily News editorial board. And she's my guest today.
Hi, Ronnie.
That was quite a, in the public perception, that was quite a distance, right, between City Limits and the New York Daily News.
Perhaps. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I mean, the obvious consistent thread is that I was then at City Limits covering the ways that New York City neighborhoods work, what makes them tick, what people's dreams and desires and needs are, and how well city government is or isn't addressing them. And I feel like that fundamental mission is identical to what I'm doing. And obviously with also covering national and international affairs.
So all those years, though, you, between, it's not all that many, but anyway, between them, you continued to write, and you wrote 2 books.
Yes, I did.
And they're very appropriate books, right?
Yeah, well, you know, I feel like all of my work is a piece of trying to understand how power operates and how it operates through institutions and how does that affect our lives day to day. So my first book was in 2009. It was called Our Lot, How Real Estate Came to Own Us. And I started reporting it in the middle of the real estate bubble. I started seeing signs initially in the data, initially actually at City Limits in covering subprime foreclosures in low-income neighborhoods around New York City, and seeing that actually quite a few foreclosures were taking homeowners down, even as housing was supposedly a safe investment, and I wanted to find out why. And the book is what resulted from the work I'd started in New York City. And really looked at, basically, you know, my attitude was Wall Street will do what Wall Street does. It is going to seek to maximize profits. All these lenders, investors, and financial institutions were out to maximize profit. It was government that should have stopped them and didn't. And so what I looked for is why did it fail? My second book came out in 2015. It's called The Influence Machine, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the Corporate Capture of American Life. And U.S. Chamber of Commerce is by far the biggest lobbyist in Washington. But it's, you know, more than that. It is kind of a kind of integrated vertical political operation with an electoral wing spending tens of millions of dollars to secure congressional seats, and particularly the Senate, for business-friendly Republicans. It has a big litigation operation. It fights regulations left and right. And through the story of the chamber, I looked to explain how it was that business interests had so successfully kind of covered all the bases in Washington to the point where, you know, whether we're talking about you know, cap and trade regulation for greenhouse gases, or you know, universal health care, all the other goals that have such popular support in society, why wasn't the political system actually reflecting those public demands? So yeah, the threads in my books are very much about, again, like trying to understand why, you know, why things are the way they are and how do those affect how we.
Can you still do that kind of work on the editorial board?
Yes, I can do that kind of work through the vehicle of the Daily News, right? Because but partly just, you know, being at a daily newspaper, and it's my first time since college that I've been at a daily paper, the metabolism, the rhythm.
It's exciting.
It's very exciting, it's very demanding. And your focus really does have to be very much on what are we going to put out in the column for tomorrow, and also now in the internet and Twitter age, we have to think in cycles of a couple of hours. So it might be writing a column very quickly in response to the news, or commissioning an op-ed, or talking with the board and then very quickly writing an editorial responding.
So you do 3 things, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, primarily writing editorials, some signing op-eds, and sometimes writing columns, mostly, again, for the web. The internet is a kind of very hungry beast that we constantly have to fill.
I always wonder how you decide the topics, and then how do you decide what stance the board is going to take?
It's fascinating. I think, you know, we have a reputation at the Daily News for being the most unpredictable editorial board in town.
That's
and I
fun.
think this keeps a lot of political consultants employed and a little nervous, right? Because they always have to, you know, they want to tell their clients, we have a slam dunk here, we'll get an editorial there. And with us, they don't know how we'll respond. And that is because, you know, well, certainly there are certain issues on which the Daily News has long had settled positions, and like the Supreme Court or like any other deliberative body, we don't move easily off of settled decisions. But when a new issue comes to us, we genuinely debate it among ourselves. Currently 4 members of the board. It's a little smaller than it used to be. Well, most newsrooms are smaller than they used to be. But we have a conversation about the issues. First, is this an issue, of course, that we will take on? And speaking broadly, we do a lot on New York City issues, whether it's what the mayor or governor are doing, whether it's about, for instance, this new revived proposal to do congestion pricing, and this claim that the city can do congestion pricing on its own, to toll vehicles coming into Manhattan and raise money for mass transit. So big chunk of what we do are these local issues. We're also very mindful of keeping the national and international picture in the mix, clearly with a lot of focus on the White House and Congress, on the economy, on issues like healthcare or transportation. And also on the international picture. We tend to do more on Israel than we might otherwise, except that our publisher, I think, is very committed and a strong friend of Israel, Mort Zuckerman. We try to kind of keep, even though we have such a local passion and commitment, keep a focus on the entire world. So we think about our mix every day of, well, what issues are going to rise to the fore, what mix will we have? And with an issue like the congestion pricing proposal, what I expect we'll do this week sometime is sit down and say, okay, well, what are the merits of a few things? One, the policy, which I believe we're already in favor of, right? The principle of congestion pricing. Then there's this proposition from these law professors who have said, we've analyzed the law and we believe that New York law says that, in fact, contrary to long-held belief, that the city council and mayor can, in fact, do congestion pricing on their own. We are, by the way, already getting the calls, kind of lobbying us on the different perspectives on that very point. And then we have to kind of weigh, here's the memo from the lawyers, here's the counter argument. So we function, I don't want to exalt ourselves and say that we're like a panel of judges, but in a way we are. We have to actually weigh the evidence and come up with a conclusion that is filtered through our interpretation of what is the Daily News point of view.
So interesting. Yeah. Do you like to hear comments from people about issues?
Oh, of course. I mean, I wouldn't.
That's how the whole thing works.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't think we would. It's certainly we consult our guts, I think, individually to say, how do we intuitively feel? How does this philosophically? I think the initial lens is just simply, is this good for the working people of New York writ large? Which is obviously it's many, many millions of people, and there's diverse constituencies to consider, and sometimes interests that conflict with one another that we have to mediate. But yeah, part of what we do every day is both, sometimes it's passive, calls will just come in from various consultants and press people. Sometimes we affirmatively seek out experts and information, and but we do incredibly, our editorials are quite short, perhaps like 400 words or so, but we do intensive reporting behind those editorials because we really want to weigh the issues on the merits and make sure that we have the facts down to a granular level. And then it's like a little family. We kind of go in the room and fight it out a little bit and figure out where we're going to land.
And how do you do, you have a time limit? I mean, you don't have the meeting the day you're writing the editorial, or do you?
Very often we do. I mean, it really depends on.
It's so interesting. Yeah.
It is. Well,
exciting.
We have the 3 slots generally in a day. Sometimes it's 2 if we're writing longer pieces. Sometimes we'll write an editorial in as little as an hour. If new, like when it's a terrible example, but the Manchester bombing. How we were leaving the newsroom at night, and suddenly we're seeing these text alerts come up about what happened, and we wrote the editorial then and there and published it by the deadline an hour later. So, I mean, it depends. We'll generally, and one of my specialties is kind of doing the more research-intensive pieces with a longer lead time that might run on a Sunday, because we work in advance of weekends, or we would work all the time. So we just try to, do as much as possible work ahead of time, but sometimes we don't.
So you think you really you've gotten, or you always have had a detailed analysis of why you feel like something's happening. I mean, you do this research and you're real prepared for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of my personal inclination regardless, but I think as a board, that's the temperament and why I fit in.
So let's talk about the city. Why do we think that de Blasio doesn't have a serious opponent?
Well, I've written a column on this very point, and you know, I think it's because, you know, he came up as a political consultant and has, you know, generally very strong instincts, although sometimes on some of the details he makes some questionable decisions.
One of my problems with him is that the conversation and the rhetoric is very smooth, but underneath it, what happens?
Yes, well, I want to get back to that, because I think I think yes, it's about kind of presenting the image, and I think he's very astute in recognizing that that's really 90% of what matters, and some of kind of messiness that you're referring to maybe is discernible to people like you and me who are in the kind of political class, or we are paid to, or by interest think about this stuff all day. But by and large, to the general public, it's, you know, it's a general message of, look, we're a safe city, we're a prosperous city, you know, people are getting what we need, we're being more progressive as a city, and that's all for the good. But to get to your question, I think, you know, a lot of it is understanding how to build his coalition. And you know, there's actually a very good piece in Crane's today, just kind of identifies what I identified, which is that his labor union constituencies in both the public sector unions and private unions like SEIU 1199 and 32BJ, the retail workers, the hotel workers,
the teachers,
and yeah, I was just talking about private sector. Then you've got all the public sector unions, the teachers chief among them. So it is an incredibly forceful constituency because, for one thing, certainly through public contracts, there's a lot he can do for them. He can give them parking placards, as he recently did, and so on. But also through policies, you know, across the board on the private sector unions. They are an incredible organizing force with great ability to get out the vote and really kind of ward off competition when it comes to the primary elections, where you would need to be able to get even a bite out of the mayor. So I feel like, you know, that's obviously necessary but not sufficient. I feel like he's been very determined to keep kind of all of the baseline numbers and quality of life, kind of the way people feel about living in the city. So about whether they are safe, whether they can send their kids to the schools, whether the quality of life is tolerable, and so on. He's made sure to keep all of those at a high level, and then also you know, introduce new things like the ferries, you know, things like that make people feel better about living in the city.
But the schools are so interesting, and that shows the power of the union, basically, doesn't it?
That's right.
Because the parents aren't necessarily the happiest people about the school system.
Well, it's interesting with the schools because, and this is actually very timely today, because they literally just within the past hour or so, the mayor and Chancellor Fariña announced a diversity plan. They won't call it an integration plan, but let's leave that aside.
Interesting.
But they were very reticent to do this, right? We know, and it's true.
Zoning. It really includes rezoning, right?
That's right. You have a number of neighborhoods in the city where, you know, the city for years cultivated white middle class parents who might have thought, well, you know, maybe we'll stay here, maybe we'll move to the suburbs, to say, no, we'll have a place for you in the schools. And kind of very delicately setting up zones and programs and so forth that, lo and behold, ended up being majority white in a system that is majority non-white. And then other schools and other districts that are almost 100% Black and Latino children.
We just had that on the West Side.
That's right.
Big argument, yes.
Big argument, and people really very upset over even minute changes in zones, or the idea that their child might have to take a bus a few blocks away. And so understandably, Mayor de Blasio did not want to touch this potentially radioactive issue. And I think it's testament both to the organizing and sort of public pressure on the side of diversity, on the side of integration, that he stepped up and did this before his re-election. You know, say, okay, we're going to.
But he doesn't really have a big opponent, so he can do that.
He can, and it's not like they're committing to, okay, we're going to move this line in District 3 over here.
It's just it's a vague plan.
Yeah.
Do you think that we're not developing talent in the city? Or the country?
You mean political talent per se?
Yeah.
I think that it is an issue within, and you know, in this town we have the Democratic Party as kind of
it's a one party.
It's a one party town, and I don't claim any greater familiarity, you know, outside of the city. But I do have to say, just as a sort of interested citizen, from time to time said, maybe, you know, we'll run for public office. You know, not that I have any great designs, but to just even think about.
But we don't even
the way in.
You can't.
We don't do that, and I think that it's, you know, you have so many kind of. Certainly, I know the Brooklyn Democrats best of all. You had a lot of kind of vested interests that are sort of, I think at this point, talking a good game about openness. You know, you have a kind of insurgent, New King's Democrats coming in.
Financing and all of that, but it doesn't.
But I know a few, I also at the same time should say, I know a few young people, including former students of mine, when I taught urban planning at Hunter, or other folks who do try to run. Inevitably, they lose, and I think that's what I'm getting at. And I don't not to curse the student I know who's currently running in a primary against Matthew Eugene in Brooklyn, but I do think that it's the odds are so great against them because the establishment is so protective of its own, and it's not a very imaginative group.
And so few people vote.
And so, but it all feeds back on itself. One
right.
thing I'm very inspired by right now is really the kind of grassroots outrage over the IDC, the Independent Democratic Conference. And you see this in a few districts, especially in Jose Peralta's district in Queens. You have a lot of
This is in the state Senate of the Democrats.
That's right. It's a state Senate.
Who align themselves with the Republicans.
That's right. There's two Democratic factions, and even though right now the Democrats are numerically in the majority, the Republicans still hold power in part, not entirely, because of this split caucus that is generally, although not always, aligned with the Republicans. And you now have, I think, post the Trump election, a lot of voters in New York waking up and realizing what has in fact happened to their own party, if they're Democrats, within New York City, and are now very angrily protesting some of these IDC Democrats.
It's become politics. It's become a career ladder in New York, right? You run for the local office, and you run for the next office. You run for the next office, and it seems to me that term limits have facilitated that. So you get people who move different. It's the same population.
Well, I feel like it was with or without term limits, right? Term limits just become another angle in the whole game, right? But you just had someone like Bill Perkins who moved from the state senate to the city council. Why? You get a pay increase. You know, it's just like there's all this game, right? No one to travel. So there's all this gaming.
Husbands and wives switch.
That's right.
Like that. You know, I always feel part of the problem is that we don't teach civics anymore. I say this all the time, so people get tired of hearing it. But I had a great civics teacher in 7th grade, and it made all the difference because you learned what the responsibilities of a citizen are. You know, so you felt that you were participating in something, and it became very important for you to vote, do the civic duties, which we don't do anymore.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I think even within the civics, even if you learn textbook civics, I think that, the way, and I don't think this is new, the byways of power, are very complex, and they are really beyond, I think, what a child can really understand. And so when you get out and you think, oh yes, we go to an election, we vote, then to understand that, oh, actually New York is a one-party town, and in fact it's the primary and not the general election that counts, and in fact if you're voting for judge, that's already decided in the back room, don't even bother. So I feel like we've also kind of, I think, got to bring those institutions, not to, you don't want to create a picture perfect textbook, life is messier than that, but to at least bring actual decision making closer to the people, so that you're not kind of coming into a very cynical environment where all the major decisions are made before the voter gets to the ballot box.
It's important. So now you look at Washington.
I look away. I try not to, it's like a train wreck.
But you do pay attention to what's going on in Washington.
Very, very closely. I mean, and one challenge, of course, is like with all journalists now, is not to get distracted by all the kind of micro movements, and Trump tweeted this, and Sean Spicer said that, and actually keep an eye on the broad trajectory of what is in fact happening. And I mean, we could discuss any number of narratives and in fact
the more important substantive things that come from the executive orders that have gone out, the changing of regulations, this new proposal privatizing aviation. What is that?
I haven't looked closely at that proposal, but speaking on the executive orders, one kind of consistent theme we see with those, and this is not surprising, kind of knowing how Trump operates as a reality performer, and as a kind of a TV personality, is that when you actually get to the legal substance of the executive orders, like I've paid closest attention to the ones on immigration, which, if you look at them, they say, okay, let's sweep up, basically, I'm using imprecise terms, but let's deport immigrants who are not legitimate here. We'll focus on criminals, but we'll focus on a lot of other folks too. But when you actually look at the language of them, they don't tend to have a whole lot of force of law, because of course they're subsumed by existing laws passed by Congress. There's only so much that the executive can actually do by signing a piece of paper, even though that's how Trump would like to govern, and that's how I think he would like the perception of his administration to be. I think everyone in the White House knows it's not really how it goes, but they'll pretend.
So we shouldn't be too upset with a lot of these.
Oh, we should be upset by the actual practices, right? Because the policies are the policies, whether or not Trump signs the document. But I think we should be very concerned. I mean, we just spoke at the Daily News yesterday with a young woman whose father is facing deportation and had been living here. He and his wife and her mom had been living here, working for years. They had immigrated from Mexico, were just very valued in their communities, and never caused any real problems. And then he's about to get deported because of this kind of change in the weather. And so, well, yeah, because suddenly you would check in every year, and they would say, okay, just check in with us in a year, and we know you've got work authorization, and it's fine. And then now comes the check-in, and now comes, okay, report for deportation by this date. It's very disturbing that non-criminals are really getting caught up in this.
And you're following this?
Yeah.
Is it an increased number? I mean, in New York,
yes,
do we really see an increase?
We do. I've been following the statistics very carefully. Syracuse University does a great job it's actually a system called TRACK, and it tracks the data. And what you see is the proportion, this is specifically immigrants within detention, right? Those who are actually kept under lock and key while awaiting deportation hearings. The numbers have basically doubled. And within that, the proportion who are violent or serious criminals, or actually facing criminal charges, has dwindled. So by and large, most people being brought in are now being brought in on just an immigration violation and being detained because of an immigration violation, not because of a threat to public safety.
So there are often people who appear at the office to report that they're here, and then they get taken in.
Yeah, I don't know the circumstances. I just know the data. But all we know is that in fact, many more people are actually not facing detention. They're in detention. They are either on Varick Street, or they might be held in Hackensack or in Orange County, and that it's a relatively small proportion still of the total of immigrants facing deportation proceedings, but significantly larger numbers and significantly fewer proportionally criminals. And I should say that's a statistic across the nation. I mean, folks have looked at this data in the aggregate, and the pattern holds everywhere. So then the question becomes, you had Trump saying, we're going to get the bad hombres out of here, and we're going to focus on criminals. And that's not, in fact, what's happening. What you're seeing is a much broader sweep.
I think there's a general confusion about how it all happens. Immigrants that are here without their papers and everything, they go to court, right?
Yes, well, there's a due process, right? Yeah. And this is the big obstacle, and this is what I was hinting at about the executive order. I mean, if you face a deportation threat, unless you come over the border and they send you right back, then they have ICE has the power to do that, the Immigration Enforcement Squad. But if you've been here for any length of time, you get due process like anyone else under the Constitution. And
how do they find out who you are?
That I don't know the mechanics of that, but I do know that they. If you were believed, as far as I understand it, if you are believed to be residing in this country without proper authorization, then you get invited to one of these proceedings. And by the way, already before Trump, the courts were so backlogged that in New York, especially, people would have to wait a couple of years potentially for a hearing. And now the backlogs are growing even longer. Not surprisingly, they have hired more judges to handle the flow.
Who hires them? The federal government?
It's the federal government. It's
ICE?
I can't remember if it's Department of Justice or if it's ICE specifically, but it's a it's an entire legal system unto itself. Most people, especially most people in detention, historically have not been represented. The city council and the mayor have undertaken efforts to make sure that they all have lawyers, because I think the stakes are highest for people in detention. They're also the ones likeliest to get deported. But outside of detention, some people have attorneys, some people don't, and people without attorneys are going to have a very hard time fighting deportation.
So you've got a really broad range.
Yeah, you noticed, right? And that's one of the things that's very interesting and daunting about what I do, is that we have to become, I wouldn't claim to be the expert, we have to gain a lot of knowledge very, very quickly and write authoritatively on an issue within a day. I mean, on immigration, it might take like 3 days to figure out all of this stuff, and then I know it and can write further on it. But yeah, it's sort of shifting between, we do a lot, there's kind of legalistic, the kind of stuff we're talking about here. Sometimes it might be a very, taking on a very broad policy issue like integration in schools, or it could be an economic or budget question. We look at budgets all the time and say, is the city spending too much, saving enough? Is, what's the right balance?
And then you have to write, you usually write short, very understandable and easily read editorials, right?
Yeah, I love doing that.
That's the point of that.
That is the point of that, and I have to say, I think it was a bit of a learning curve for me at first to really, because I thought I always done kind of this explanatory educational writing and loved doing that, but I had never done it in so concise a form. And to get it down to those 400 words, now I'm pretty good. I'm not the best at it, but it is an art, and what's wonderful now, it's like a great talent. Like when I serve on a board here, an advisory group there, I find I have this like magical, I can point at any piece, someone sends me something to edit, I can boil it down to something anyone can understand.
Well, we've come to the end of this program.
Ready.
It's amazing.
Shocking.
But I hope people will look at the Daily News. They should buy it just for the editorial page. How about that?
Well, they should buy it.
And they can watch it online.
Yes.
They can read it online.
Dailynews.com.
Yeah.
nydailynews.com.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you'll come back again.
Of course.
All right.
Thank you.
We at CUNY TV always like to hear from our viewers. So if you have any subjects you'd like to explore or people you'd like to hear, please let us know. Write to us at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or go to our website, cuny.tv, and click on Contact Us. We look forward to hearing from you.